Good morning and welcome to the Morning Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Camp, coming to you as always from the Spotlight Studios here in Morristown, New Jersey. My guest today is a great friend of the show. He is managing partner of TRJ Consulting Services and has over 15 years of expertise transforming businesses through proven methodology, including building value initiatives, recharging processes, driving commercial strategies, and enhancing margins. He guides both budding entrepreneurs and companies facing challenging competitive environments. Back today for his fourth time on the show, Trevor Andersen. Trevor, welcome.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Love being here, brother. Morristown,
New Jersey connection. Love it. You got the beard this time. I'm not sure if you've had a beard any other time that you've been on the show. I
think the beard just kind of magically sprouted because I saw you and your beard, and my beard was like, I need to come out.
Yeah, I'm an influencer in that way. You got a little bit more gray in yours than I do, which is okay. But so you've come on and you've talked about TRJ. You've come on and you talked about the hospitality industry and the sales process before and after COVID. But today we're talking about something new that you're kind of getting yourself involved in and trying to get off the ground. So tell us what that is, and then we'll learn more about it as we go.
Yeah, definitely. Again, thanks for having me, Mike. So Oakleaf is the name of this, I'll call it enterprise. And really the goal of what Oakleaf was to kind of be an ecosystem to professional athletes that are navigating the business world in kind of a short one sentence synopsis of what it's all about.
Right. Okay. So Oakleaf is the company that we're talking about. Has it launched? So we're recording this on April 23rd. Has it launched?
It'll officially go live May 1st.
May 1st. Okay,
as a beta, right? So
sure.
as I get through it, and we'll go through it today, Mike. But obviously, I'm working through it. I want to understand the players are taken care of, the service providers, and obviously there needs to be some type of synergy between the two. So that'll be part of the first few months of it being live.
Okay, great. So let's talk about like how it actually came to be, because we've had, I don't know how many conversations about Oakleaf, even prior to Oakleaf actually being a name. You know, for anybody that doesn't know, like Trevor was actually able to get us a few guests on the show because of this ecosystem connection network that he's built. So some of the guests that you like, Reggie Walker, Christian Sicoli, some of the people that have come on over the course of the life of the show have been connections that I've made through Trevor. So obviously his network is vast, which has been great. So let's talk about where Oakleaf started from, kind of how it's like what the impetus behind starting Oakleaf actually came from.
So I think, so my background, as I told kind of Mike and in other podcasts, is I spent my entire career in public and private companies. And I learned the lens of finance and accounting through operations. So I'm very, very unique in that respect. But every major, I guess, milestone or major change in my career was given from a team effort, meaning that I've either led a team, I've been part of a team, or I've been involved in a team that had some kind of outcome that was amazing. And along the way, I started looking at that and said to myself, all right, so there's a lot of value in having a sales and a finance guy on a call together, right? It's two different angles, two different ends of the spectrum. Like, how does that become a business model, right? Yeah. So in the back of my mind, this is years, we're talking years down the road through my entire career. And then what happened in 2019 is I went to a bunch of exits. And as I started TRJ, I started to look at some of my clients and what was happening. And again, I was reaching out to my network quite a bit, you know, wealth managers, accountants, people like you, Mike. I mean, we've talked about, there's a commercial real estate deal that I kind of got involved in a little bit that I needed a little bit more expertise I didn't have. So I'm like, I get this framework. And then where it really came to its like inflection point was someone reached out to me and they had a business that was losing a ton of money, a lot of cash burn every month out the door. And it was a very unique situation. Obviously had to deal with COVID. They were shut down. They had a heavy lease. And to me, I was like, how do I help solve their problem, right? I just want to help people. So, you know, as kind of my MO. And I said, all right, let me get an attorney on here. Let me get a wealth manager and investment banker. Bring 4 people on and let's get from a different point of view. And that's really where Oakleaf was born. The situation presented itself. We came up with a great idea and like a change scenario. Ultimately, that person never used it. Yeah. But to me, I'm like, wow, that was like, no one's ever done that. No one's brought that many people on to one call to answer a problem.
Right.
So along the way of COVID and meeting people and networking, getting this large, vast network, thank you, Mike, is these athletes keep telling me they have all these situations in their LinkedIn, their Twitter, their Instagram, you know, following them to gas stations of projects, whether they be business opportunities, investment opportunities, so on and so forth. And I said to myself, all right, they have a ton of deal flow. How can I help support them within what I'm doing today? And to me, I couldn't do it under TRJ because TRJ is geared towards fractional executive work. So I said, all right, what can we also do to kind of help these people? And that's where Oakleaf became prevalent. And Oakleaf Partners, by definition, was a partnership opportunity of people that I've known and trusted over the years, that I've done deals with, collaborated, I've vetted. So people say that they vetted people, like these are people in my family, more or less.
Right.
And when these athletes come to me, or entrepreneurs for that matter, or anybody, and they say, hey, I've always, I want to get involved in something, but I don't know a great attorney, or I don't know someone great in title insurance, AKA Michael Hamm.
Right. Coolest guy in title insurance.
Best beard ever. But I thought to myself, all right, listen, I've done a lot of that work.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make it, I want it to be transparent. I don't need to charge hundreds of thousands of dollars over here, make the service providers purvey a ton of money, but I want to find a way to get these two individuals or two entities to the table with me in the middle and help facilitate something great.
Right.
And that's the birth of how Oakleaf came to be.
Yeah.
If I could say it so eloquently.
That was very well put. I think that's the best way and we've talked about it several times. Like I said, that's the best way you've ever described it, I'm pretty sure. So that was one of the questions that I was going to have, is that if people that have listened to this show before have heard you on the show before, like I said, and one of the things that I think that you touched on in the course of that answer was the difference between TRJ and Oakleaf. So TRJ and Oakleaf are two totally different things. Could you just expand on that, about why that's different? Because TRJ is more the outsourced CFO type stuff. Oakleaf is more of like a network. Is that correct?
That's correct. So TRJ in itself is a prong of how Oakleaf will then help these budding entrepreneurs or athletes.
Right. Got it.
Right. So ideally they are disconnected, but they are unified in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
The way TRJ came to be, that fractional CFO and COO work was really to augment the cost, a heavy burden cost of a relationship with a entrepreneur, company, business model that didn't see the value in having someone full-time at the helm.
Yeah.
Now, taking that full circle, that opportunity still exists within inside of Oakleaf if needed.
Yeah.
Like by no means does Oakleaf need to then impress itself TRJ and rebrand everything. To me, it's about solving the problem.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say they have a very specific need in real estate. Clearly, I'm not a real estate guy. TRJ is not real estate. I'd love to be involved where I can to help, but I want the relationship to be with like a Mike Hamm.
Yeah.
I want it to be with a commercial broker or a real estate investor I know, because that's power to the individual. To me, it's all about answering their question.
Yeah.
In a smart way, not wasting time. Time is the most valuable resource on this earth.
Yes. Right. And then, yeah. No, that's perfect. And then when you're talking, you mentioned athletes before. So are we talking professional athletes, former professional athletes? What kind of athletes are we talking about? And is it only for those types of people?
So originally, the reason I use the word athletes, and it's anonymous, current, former, present, in destination to.
Yeah. That's
why I included entrepreneurs as well. It's more than that. I think it can be leveraged in such a way because I think they have specific time constraints. Right. Their time is ultra valuable because they're doing and performing a very high risk sport, whatever that may be. And after the game, it also becomes more prevalent, to kind of manage and maintain a lifestyle. So I designed it with athletes because when I started to originally speak to a lot of them, and you've met a couple of them, they came to me with those same things I mentioned before. But as I started to think conceptually, all right, so it doesn't necessarily need to just be athletes, right? Yeah. Anyone can take advantage of this. When I mean anyone, the goal is to help people, right? And help entrepreneurs and athletes. So entrepreneurs being a wide category, athletes being a wide category. I think it depends on the walk of life. So like a current athlete, really has zero time. When you think about it, they're training, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
So to me, it's very, very specific. A former athlete may be, well diversified and have a very particular set of skills in one area that we can complement. And to me, that just looks like a different feel. And that's just really a different construction of how Oakleaf, I guess, molds to its counterpart.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And then, is this sign this can kind of cover any industry, correct? Like, I mean, because
Correct. Yes.
like I mentioned before, I mean, your network is big enough that like if they come to you with a problem, you could figure out how to. So there's not like it's not necessarily industry specific. It's like
Oh, no.
you're
Yeah.
trying to do like run a business or invest in something or whatever it is. To kind of like you said to help diversify your portfolio or whatever it is. And that's so it's not industry specific, and that's where the network part of it comes in.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of, that's years and years of cultivating and understanding, like putting people in and making them family.
Yeah.
I think that you have a network, right? Which is great. You can utilize, leverage, recommend, so on and so forth. Then you have like your inner circle, almost like your family. And that's where Oakleaf Partners is. No matter what, they're always there. No matter what you need, they're transparent. They have the highest amount of integrity. Because to me, I don't want to see anyone get taken advantage of. It makes me, it happened to me. I've seen it across my career. And the worst thing I want to do is someone at high caliber feel like they can't trust someone. Because that's the hardest thing to do is trust, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like if I fall backwards, I know Mike Ham's going to catch me because our beards are about the same. I love Mike. So I want to be there to catch these people, whether it be an athlete or an entrepreneur.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about like how the process actually works. So you get somebody, you meet somebody through your networking channels, whatever they may be, and they come to you with a problem. What's step number one?
All right. Step number one is what we do is we have this kind of standard list of questions, and it's really just to kind of help start the conversation. I mean, I could spend hours on the phone with somebody. They could spend hours on the phone. Really, we've designed this list of hybrid questions depending upon the situation, and we send it out to either the athlete or the entrepreneur. We ask them to fill it out. That's really the step one. And that's just, hey, what we do from there is to kind of evaluate what makes sense and to then move to step two, which is an actual round table. So that design approach, as I mentioned before, bringing 4 people on a call to help solve a problem, just think of that at a larger section. And eventually I want to have them in person again. Right now they're virtual, given the respect to where people are and how the world is kind of moving and shaking. Eventually we're going to get back to in-person things. And Oakleaf will be in person. We'll be able to travel and move places. But in phase 2, the idea is to then bring in the right providers or the right partners into the conversation. As I mentioned before, if this is a specific real estate thing, I'll be there to help the flow, but not representing TRJ. I'll be there to help the flow with Michael Ham or whomever, a commercial real estate broker, whomever, because to me, that's the most important thing. Identify the problem, whatever that may be, or it could be an opportunity. Then bring in the right players to the actual concept. And to me, since it's still in beta mode, I'm still learning and trying this, I think the roundtable will be meaty in nature. It'll be time significant because ultimately I want them to walk away with clear outcomes.
Yeah.
Right. What's the next steps? Right. And when I mean next steps, the next steps with the people that were brought to the table, meaning that if they came up with a solution, you want to engage with one of them or all of them, it's completely on you. It's completely on them to make that decision. Oakleaf will not be intersected between the two, more than just a communication to help facilitate the ultimate end game, whatever that may be.
Yeah. So one of the things that I did want to ask is that, like, have you ever had a situation, and again, this is in beta, so I don't really know, but foresee this happening where, maybe you have somebody that's trying to invest in real estate. Let's just use that example because title guy. But like, do you ever have situations where they may come to you and say, hey, I need to diversify something. I need to have some cash flow post-career, or I have, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what I want to get myself into. Is that part of this process, or is that something that you would, try to pitch off to somebody else? Or do they need to kind of come to you with like an idea or at least something?
I'd say with inside I'll call them the first 10, by the way, for like kind of our beta version. That's what I'm kind of entitling everyone. There is a coach and there are other, opportunities to kind of discuss that. I'd like to say yes, but I don't want to say yes to the detriment of my reputation. I want to try, right? if you well, I mean that in all sincerity, right? If there's a way, like within my background, and I can help guide someone in a positive way to help them in any which way that helped us form, I'll try to do it. I'd like to think that down the road, yes, that the partnership would be big enough and rigid enough that inside those four walls, you'd be able to find anything you need.
Gotcha.
As a vision for me.
Yeah. And then so you mentioned phase 1 and phase 2. Is there a phase 3? Is there
So the way I think of phase 3 is, ultimately that's the game, right? So now we're into whatever the game was. And, I'm, again, give me a little leeway, because I'm still working through some of the kinks on how those phases look, and everything looks to be.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but
you got me. Yeah, we put it on the spotlight.
Spotlight. We ask hard hitting questions on this show, so you got to give us everything.
Roll up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves just to answer this question. The last phase to me is more of a maintenance, right? So ultimately, as I mentioned before, 1 and 2 is very, very important. Phase 3 is after the athlete or entrepreneur makes that step to whatever that is, whether it be to dilute a business, buy a business, and they need the service providers within inside it, that relationship with them becomes their own relationship. So it's almost, if you will, I'm taking it to a point, and then I'll nurture it from afar the best I can to make sure everything stays in line. But once we get past phase 2, it tends to kind of trail off, at least from a lot of Oakleaf engagement, right? Ultimately, then it's there from the entrepreneur athlete to the provider that they're working with, or providers for that matter.
Right. And then, so are these relationships that, you're hoping to set up with Oakleaf, are they things that, like, once, let's just say it's a real estate deal, are these things that once the real estate deal is done, that relationship is kind of over? I mean, I know no relationship is ever over, but is this something that they're a part of Oakleaf in perpetuity? Is this like a membership type thing? How does this work?
I'll be honest with you. I mean, as I look through it, I love it. Obviously membership perpetuity. I'd love to be, like, when I say family's forever. It's not like you use us and then you go away and you do the next thing. Like, I'd like to think that process makes so much sense that you'd see a lot of value in the front end and getting that roundtable in place, that it would always make sense to take it all the way back through.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe that next project or opportunity or whatever that looks like, although I've gone through 12 months of this, I've come to the end of the road, I've had my relationships with the providers along the way. All right, now I got the next thing. Let's just go right back. That's kind of the way I envision it. And to me, I'm still trying to figure out pricing. I really am. I promise you, I wish I could say that's like $1 billion and this is 30 cents. I'm just trying to, like, for me, I want it to provide value for everybody involved.
Yeah.
And as I meant transparently, like, to me, it's really about helping and kind of taking those situations to the next level. And that's the most important thing to me.
Right. All right. So let's look at the service provider side of it. From the service provider side, how would one get themselves involved in your service provider network? I know you said that you vetted them and you've gotten them, like, whittled down to like a select group. But are there opportunities for other people to get involved in this thing?
Yes. 100%. So my goal to start the first 10 is that first, like, I'll call it tripod approach, where I'm standing, right? Now, ultimately from there, it's going to be a very rigid process. It has to be.
Yeah.
Right. There has to be multiple approvals with inside, or nominations, if you will. I'm still working on the terminology. But then what I'd like to do is give the ability to some of that vote to be the outside. So ultimately, the athletes, entrepreneurs that this thing is facilitating. So you are a professional athlete and you get a notification that I want to bring Mike Ham into the situation. He's already gone through a couple approvals inside the group. Now I want to get your thoughts on it, because ultimately when you come back with your situation, he could be there. And to me, that's just taking it full circle. I mean, that's bringing everybody's aware of what everyone's doing, and it's allowing them to feel like the ecosystem that's supporting them, they have some thought on. I mean, they have an approval. I mean, it's not just myself doing it or the group inside itself deciding. It's really got a good holistic view.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I envision it. And I think it'll take a little time to grow. I think the first 10 covers a pretty good span. So I think I'll start queuing some of these up down the road, but I think it'll take a little time to grow and cultivate.
Yeah. Right. And then from the other side, I mean, I know it's entrepreneurs, professional athletes. How do you keep that, I guess, inflow going? I mean, if people are interested in getting involved, they could just reach out to you, I'm sure.
Of course,
But then, like, are there other ways that you see trying to grow, like, that side of it? Because ultimately that's who's actually looking for the business.
Yeah, I'd say, like, to the respect of, like, as me, leading and the co-founder and the founder of it, I spent most of my time spent on that side, right? Cultivating and really solidifying those relationships, putting together a real campaign besides just the website and, I'll call it the standard T's and C's, really kind of getting into those networks, like part of some of the major organizations out there, whatever, like NFLPA, NBA, NHL, allowing them to see that there's a value to this organization to kind of help.
Yeah.
As well as the entrepreneur circuit. Clubhouse is a huge thing, as I know you're on, Mike, right? Letting them know that there's a ecosystem there to support them, and kind of taking that and really pushing that out from a business development perspective. That'll be solely on my shoulders, I think, to start. But as it grows, my goal is to take whatever's made with inside Oakleaf, besides just the standard administrative stuff, to then just pump that 110% back into the business to kind of either grow it through new channels or expand the network.
Yeah. Okay. Keeping going with that entrepreneur, professional athlete side, do you see, maybe if the people are listening to this, they think it's going to be, like I'm, Mike Ham, and I'm a former professional curler. So I come into you and I have this real estate business, but then you have another entrepreneur that comes in with something else. I'm not sure what it could be. Do you see like them operating as silos and working with your service providers, or do you see them kind of, if the opportunity is there, seeing if you can intertwine and connect those entrepreneurs with each other to kind of help that flow and make the network bigger?
Maybe I should hire you. That's a great thing right there, Mike.
I think that's a great idea.
It really is. It came on the morning spotlight.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, with respect to everyone's situation, right?
Yeah.
Be in dancing on this kind of plane, so to speak, you have to be mindful of what people are doing. Like, you'd never want to dissuade or persuade someone in limelight or in negative light. It's very transparently, if there's an opportunity to make it happen and everyone agrees, like when I mean everyone agrees via signature, right? It's the world we do live in,
right?
Then I think it would be collaborative in nature, right? If you can have two projects humming along the same line to bring up similar resources, why not? Right. I mean, that's what again, that just goes back to the beginning of time when I started business, where I saw the value of being in a team and just not being the smartest guy in the room. I'm never the smartest guy in the room, but I love it.
Yeah.
Because it allows me to learn and to cultivate and to really drive positive reactions.
Right. Yeah. I was just interested because I know that the whole thing is basically predicated on networking and all that. And if there's an opportunity to kind of get your entrepreneur side working together even more, I think that could create even more opportunities and just kind of help facilitate more stuff for Oakleaf and the service providers and everybody involved. And I just thought of that. So I'm, just make sure you send the check to the Spotlight Studios in Morristown.
In Morristown. Okay. I'll add that to the bill when you bought me the shoes.
Yeah.
How about that for listeners? That's another time for another story.
That's definitely another time. So let me ask you this. As we kind of progress through 2021 here, there's a lot of uncertainties with a lot of different things because, it's going to take a while for the dust to settle on the last year. So I think this might be a hard question to answer, but do you have is there like an end game goal of what you see Oakleaf being? Or is this just kind of something that as it progresses, it's going to continue to kind of, like a chameleon. It's going to kind of like fit the environment that it sees itself in. Talk to us about that. Is there like an end game or like a structure that you see it taking form in down the road?
I think I want to say yes and no, but to the fact of expanding and contracting with the way the world is and what's going on, that's the beauty of this thing, right? It will be able to do that. If you told me, like, from a long, like maybe a 5-year perspective, what I could see it being, like a fully formed company, like almost, as you will, an agency. And this is just thought, right?
Yeah,
where
right.
Maybe the first 10 are equity shareholders, right? It's a possibility. And it becomes like a fully formed organization that allows more than just its standard networking in tranche into a business model, and then it spits out an answer. It becomes like a community.
Yeah.
And then ultimately it sits in, I use the 4 walls. It sits in some kind of framework of a real space, like an office space, whatever that looks like too in the future, depending on where. And, it's really driven by the people inside.
Yeah.
It's just that harmonious culture that I've seen and been a part of that's really, helped me. So, I'd love that to be a more like an actual physical premise, like a building that surrounds itself with these kind of people and helps really facilitate those kind of projects.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. All right. So before we move this into our closing segment, do you have we touched on everything that we were supposed to touch on? I think we did.
Yeah, I think so too. I appreciate it, Mike. I mean, like I said, this is a new endeavor for me. I've been through a couple of these in 2021 and 2020 now, it seems like.
Right. Yeah.
And it's really got me kind of happy about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've kind of been talking to you kind of throughout this whole process, and then doing this has been almost eye-opening for me because now I kind of get it even more. And then I hope that, maybe some of the questions kind of jog some stuff in your brain for future things to add on to the actual business model. So, so as you know, since you've done this a couple times, at the end of every episode of the Morning Spotlight, we do our closing segment, which we call Under the Spotlight. So we've been talking for about 25-ish minutes. So what is one thing, and you could take this however you want, that you want the spotlighters, which is what I call the Morning Spotlight listeners, to walk away from this episode with, or maybe, I don't know what it would be, but your final point about Oakleaf and kind of what you see moving forward.
I guess my final point for the people listening out there is just really to just give it, a 5-minute listen, right? Give me an opportunity to kind of do what we've done here on the Spotlight, to go through it, and let me show you how transparent it could be and what it could do for them. Yeah.
No, I think that's great. All right. So is there a website for Oakleaf yet?
Yeah. So it's www.oakleafpartner.com. No S, just partner.
Okay.
And then my email is trevor@oakleafpartner.com.
Okay. And then where else can people go to connect directly? If they need more Trevor, where can they go?
Instagram will be set up today. As I said, things are going live in May. There's already a landing page on LinkedIn. I'm working on a Twitter later this week.
Okay. And they can reach out to you on any of those platforms as well.
Any of those platforms. And then every one of my platforms are all cross-communicated. So, I have my LinkedIn tree that Mike Ham helped me set up, by the way, amazing guy.
Right.
So you can click on any of them. They're all kind of intertwined, and it'll say Oakleaf as a branding.
Awesome. All right. So I'll make sure I put all those links in the show notes of this episode, as well as all the Morning Spotlight links, themorningspotlight.com and themorningspotlight@gmail.com is the email address. Trevor, thank you for coming on with us today. This was a little bit different than what we normally do, but as always, you crushed it. And hopefully this helped, set up Oakleaf for success coming on the Morning Spotlight.
Yeah. Thanks again, Mike. And thanks everybody for listening.
Of course. And everybody else, thanks for listening. And we will catch you next time.